Hello, everyone. This is Sergio Morero here at Rebel One Live. Today we have a special guest, friend Jesse Martinez, who's a delegate at the World Economic Forum, founder of Latinx Startup Alliance, CareerForce. He's also a venture partner at Vamos Ventures and Republic. Every time I meet Jesse, I'm like, wow, like what does this man not do? I love it. Thank you, Jesse, for joining us. Definitely appreciate you spending time with us today. So thanks
No,
again.
absolutely. Thank you for the warm invitation,
Of
and
course, of course. Yeah.
appreciate
So
you
we'll
having me on the
we'll
show.
dive right. Oh, what'd you say?
So I appreciate you having me on the show.
Of course. And we'll dive right in for those that are watching that don't know Jesse's. I would categorize as an ecosystem builder, and really thinking about what passionate about startups and what the ecosystem needs, and has played several roles as a founder and a community builder in that respect. But wanted to turn it over to you, and if you could share a little bit of your background. How did you go from your origins to ending up now being a venture partner at Vamos Ventures, Republic, and also being a founder. So
Right, right. And thank you again. Yeah, so my journey starts in Texas. So I'm at the Hummels. I'm born in Houston, born and raised, and both of my parents are from Mexico. And I actually went to Texas A&M, studied engineering, and I was in the technical space, then technical sales, and then I was very fortunate to end up in Silicon Valley in 1997. So I'm old school, and so I was employee 27 for a startup. We were funded by Sequoia Capital, and we were one of two pioneers in the hosting services space. So this is pre AWS, pre Rackspace, et cetera. And so we were hosting Yahoo, Netscape, and a few other marquee brands. We went from startup to part of a public company in less than a year via two acquisitions. So that was my whole introduction to the world of tech, startups, Silicon Valley, and stock options. And so pretty amazing. My common joke there is that, hey, they don't teach us about stock options in Texas. And so with that, I did my first startup with my brother, 98 through 2000, which was picosito.com. So it was a bilingual portal focused on the U.S. Hispanic community. We raised about 2.3 million seed capital. We had two offers for an acquisition. Turning down the first one, we were actually entertaining the second one. And then the market crashed in March of 2000, which we all know was the dot-com crash or bust, however you look at it. So the takeaway there was like earning my MBA, but without the paper. And so from that, entered into
save some money.
what's that?
You saved some money. You just did it.
Yeah. And so who knows what would have happened if we would have had the opportunity to finish the acquisition. And so, I'll fast forward, right? So CareerForce was my fourth startup. And so in fall of 2016, I entered the Salesforce incubator as the first entrepreneur resident. And early 2017 is when I had my aha moment of like, oh, there's all these amazing careers within the Salesforce ecosystem. There's some great paying jobs. However, there's still a need for more diversity. What if I create a training program that focuses on diverse communities to teach them to become Salesforce admins? So being able to provide, a door, right, entry level door into the Salesforce economy. And so we embarked on that journey. We did a couple of cohorts, the last one being around moms. So our thesis was around diverse moms, formerly incarcerated community colleges, Puerto Rico, et cetera. And so we had about 10 market verticals. The difference with our programming is that it was in person. And so we actually brought our students on site to Salesforce corporate and met there and had, guest speakers and panels. We had, office hours. And so it was being able to just leverage the Salesforce Ohana and being able to have our students get to meet people, ask questions, and also expand their network. This year, before COVID-19, we're actually on track to launch our first training for those that are blind or low vision. And so unfortunately, because of COVID, that is actually on the back burner. So we're pretty excited about that. And so being able to find these, unique communities to help, support and empower them and, train them to be part of the Salesforce ecosystem. Now, the reason I got invited and even met the Salesforce team was because of my nonprofit Latino Startup Alliance, which we actually just changed the name after 9 years to Latinx Startup Alliance for Pride. And so in 2010, when I was looking to do my second startup, I was like, oh, there's all these other community-based organizations providing support and services. Let me see if there's anything for Latinos. And so I did several Google searches, couldn't find anything. And so that became the beginning of Latino Startup Alliance as a meetup group in early 2011. So we met with 6 people in the mission, and that was our first get together. So fast forward, we're over 1,000 members globally. We continue to grow organically. And our whole mission is to empower Latino founders or Latinx founders. Excuse me.
No, that's great. Especially, showing the journey of, your experience through the, like you said, the boom and bust. It's through several startups, and then seeing space in the ecosystem and figuring out how we can build and develop. And in doubling down on the subject of Latino founders or founders of color, how have you seen the ecosystem evolve, whether good, whether for better or for worse over the last 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's definitely gotten a lot better just because there's more resources, right? And so before there weren't as many of us, right, as founders, and there weren't as many investors, and there weren't as many as accelerators, boot camps, etc. And so it's come a long way, which is really awesome to see that whole market transform. And then even more so now, right, with Black Lives Matter, ensuring that we, continue on that journey and mission of increasing diversity around tech and then also just other industries. And so it's a unique moment in time for us to maximize, amongst ourselves and with our allies. And so, how do we keep that momentum going?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I mean, and you saying, "Hey, it's a lot better than it used to be," and then even seeing, um, maybe looking at some of the stats now, right?
Yeah,
Still, such a low percentage of of funds are allocated into women and people of color. Whether that be asset allocators, very few venture capitalists are women or people of color. It's below it's like 12%.
right.
So what and now with the death of George Floyd and the recognition really of the inequities in the system. What more do you think we can do to make that change, but maybe faster, or how can we be bolder to really make step functions and change?
Yeah, well, I think for myself, right at the end of the day, and I think Lo Tony from Plexo Capital has alluded to it, right? The LPs hold the purse strings. And so, how do we open up those purse strings, right,
Hmm.
to allow more diverse GPs get the funding that they need in order to create these funds, right, these diverse funds. And so, what do we do, right, as individuals, and then also how do we come together to really push for that? And it's the same thing for philanthropy dollars as well, right? Who controls that money at the end of the day?
Yep, absolutely. So, can you share a little bit more so I know the name has changed from Latino Startup Alliance to Latinx Startups for Pride. Can you share more of some of the initiatives that you have ushered while working on that organization?
Yeah, so we've done everything from monthly events to office hours to summits. We've traveled the world as well. We did a first delegation of Latinos from Silicon Valley and tech to Israel. And so that was a pretty amazing, life-changing experience. I've been to the White House 4 times, previous administration, of course. and then also part of the Clinton Global Initiative, evangelizing Latino Startup Alliance, and then most recently, being honored and blessed to attend Davos as part of the first Hispanic delegation this year under We Are All Human, which is led by Claudia Romo Edelman.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank
So
you. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, how was that? How was Davos?
You know, um, amazing, right? You come in with two different lenses, right? So global leaders convening, having these talks, meeting amazing people, having awesome conversations, and at the same time having your diversity lens. So still a need for more diversity, still a need for people on panels and speakers, et cetera, right? Representing everyone from all walks of life and culture. And so there's some work to be done, but they're definitely taking that set of first steps to ensure that everyone's included. And then it is diverse from, say, a global stage, but when we think about some of the we talk about Black and Brown, right, in the U.S. and Silicon Valley, and so how do we see more of us in those world events?
Yeah, and no, that's great. I mean, you've had such an eclectic career and in building in different spaces. What can you share more about what led you to start CareerForce and then move to join Enube?
Yeah, so again, just seeing the lack of or the need, right, for more diversity within the Salesforce ecosystem. And then also understanding that a lot of these Salesforce careers don't require you to be as technical or an engineer. And so usually what you find is a lot of programs around tech saying, oh, you have to be, a coder, software engineer, et cetera. And so looking at the careers within the Salesforce ecosystem, there's BAs, there's analysts, right? There's sales, et cetera. And so just being able to, leverage these additional trainings, which, they offer a great online learning management system called Trailhead. So you can actually learn for free and you can, earn points and badges, and then you can follow career paths. And then, so that's a good way to, get involved and engage and see if it's something that you like. And then stepping back, you have a great support ecosystem of those that work for Salesforce, as well as those that are part of the whole ecosystem themselves. And so when you think about mentors or being able to ask questions, it's just amazing. And so people have asked me in the past, is the Salesforce Kool-Aid real? I was like, no, it's real. And so, and then, for example, I have a friend, Stephanie Herrera, who's one of the co-founders for Pep Up Tech, who also teaches, diverse students to become admins and other career path opportunities. She started Salesforce Saturdays. So being able to convene people on a Saturday, they come learn and talk about Salesforce and, have talks, and then also resources there on site to help you with whatever you're working on. And so pretty incredible. And so I would, definitely suggest that people take a look at trailhead.com, if you're interested in the Salesforce ecosystem, and also see what career path opportunities are there. And so because of that work, I was able to meet the team over at Anuba Solutions, which is really cool because it's a Latino couple, coming out of Salesforce, consulting ecosystem, launching their own consultancy. And this year, I was able to join as VP of Sales and Business Development. And so the CareerForce mission doesn't end, it continues. And so one of the things that I'm excited about is how do we build more training hubs within the US based on the work that we're doing. But then more importantly, we're also expanding to Latin America. And so Nube already has a presence in Quito, Ecuador. And so now we're looking at establishing a footprint in Mexico.
And can you talk a little bit about what do you see how do you see the startup ecosystem of Latin America? What do you see the startup ecosystem in Latin America's role in the global startup ecosystem? I know you've been a part of Startup Brazil, and you've been connected to you recently posted about venture capital in Peru. So can you share more about your insight into why is Latin America a focus for you?
Yeah. Well, same scenario, right? Like the U.S., there's just more resources. There's more founders. Uh, there's more venture capital. There's even venture debt now that, Silicon Valley Bank announced. And so when you think about, hey, let's move beyond what everyone knew or always talked about was Mercado Libre, right? Now we have these other unicorns that are, up and coming, which then therefore, builds the local ecosystem with talent. So how do we create more founders out of some of these unicorns once they have some exits and success stories? And so little by little, and then accelerate that with unfortunately, COVID-19 is, well, now you can build anywhere and you can access talent anywhere, and that, hey, it's okay, and that actually working from home does work for most. And so, you start breaking down some of those barriers and challenges that people might have had, where, previously it was always about, oh, I got to be in Silicon Valley, right? In order to go and build and expand my business if I'm a Latam founder for the most part.
Yeah, where do you think that's true and not true? Because I think while founders can work from anywhere, the people who hold the purse string and the capital, there's a lot of them in Silicon Valley, right? And they need to feel that trust, engender that trust in order to make that wire, right?
Right.
Make that transfer happen, of funds in order to grow the startups. What are you seeing right now? Are you seeing, that occur with, I know it's COVID, we're in COVID-19 global pandemic, and things
Right.
have slowed down. But now that it's been a few months, are you seeing things pick up? Are you seeing greater comfort with investing at a, in startups internationally that you may have not met? Or, or do you think they still need to, where they would have made the flight to Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
now they can't? So,
Right. Right.
how do you see that affecting the ecosystem?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is that well, people are certainly more open minded, based on the circumstances. And so, I think the biggest thing is, you know, what is your venture, right? And how does it perform during these times? And so, depending on what you were doing as a startup, how does it scale, right? Uh, During COVID,
Hmm.
and then what happens? Do you have to pivot because of the work that you were doing, right? So when we think about telehealth and conferencing and all those tools that help you to be productive working from home, right? Those are growing like that. But then the others, where it could have been a social media influencer or other, right? It's the opposite. It's because you don't have the access, you don't have the ability to do the travel and work with the brands as you were before.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see how it's going to unfold. Can you share more about what uh, y your how did you can you talk about your transition into venture partner role at Republic and also Vamos Ventures?
Sure. So I've been a mentor and advisor to several startups and founders, and so I've been doing that, for quite some time. In addition, I did helped run a pre-accelerator focused on Latina tech founders a few years ago. And so this is, that next step in, I guess, Jesse's evolution and being able to, really be more proactive and visible from an investor perspective. And so our relationship with Republic, which is a crowdfunding platform, which helps you raise up to $1 million, from the crowd, friends and family and others. We've partnered with them back in early 2016. And so it was pre-platforms before they were launched. And so, we've been a market vertical within the Republic family for Latinx founders. And so this is that next evolution, in 2020, which is being led by Cheryl Campos as a whole family of venture partners. to help increase that pipeline and to also foster that collaboration with one another. And so, deal flow, and then also support and resources, which is awesome. And then, as you know, right, you know Michael, so you had him on your show, and so he's doing amazing work. From meeting him day one in LA for lunch and talking about some of the work that he wanted to do and the vision that he had, and being able to support Latinx founders and also diverse founders, and establishing this fund. And so he's about there, with that $25 million fund. And so just excited to be part of that and being able to, help source deals and vet deals, and also again provide support and resources for these, Latinx and diverse founders.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, it's great to see, in the ecosystem now, some individuals that have been, Marcos has been talking about investing in Latinx founders and diversity more broadly for a long time. And,
Right.
It's great to see the fund come together, and, love the work Republic has been doing around democratizing access to and really ushering crowdfunding more readily. So it's great to see.
Yeah, we
So
know that it works.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. For it, what are some of the for you? What are some of the trends you're seeing? Like where does when you look forward, right? And I think you're quick to see a problem and build an organization or an effort around it to address it. Um, as you look out toward venture, it's at least venture capital, right? I know
Right.
crowdfunding is different, but what do you think are the major trends that are coming and need to change as the market evolves?
Yeah, well, I think certainly the diversification of investing, right? So being able to invest in other cities, other geographies, right? So that's going to ramp up, I would say, just given the conditions that we're in. And then also where I see an uptick is just the cross collaboration amongst investors, right? So from angels to VCs, and being able to support one another, especially for those that are, supporting diversity. So what are those co-investors? What are those partners that people secure so that, you can better leverage deal flow and support for these diverse founders that are across the U.S.
And for those, I think for the founders, I mean, you probably have your own deal flow, and people are messaging you. For the emerging investors or other angel investors that are trying to get visibility, and that may not have been to the valley yet, right, and don't have those relationships established. What would you recommend in terms of knitting themselves into the network, or at least in the time of COVID where we can't just fly there and have conversations with each other? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing, as I usually tell my students and my entrepreneurs and founders is, that first step is showing up. And so now you have to show up online and, find these communities and engage and start building those relationships, and, being able to ask others, right, within your network, like who can introduce you to, XYZ, depending on what you're looking for. So that's a little bit of what's occurring within, Republic, right? The venture partner community is the sharing, the intros, the leveraging of resources. And so, instead of being just one person, now you have connections to like 50 plus people, which then you can drop it into Slack. And then from there, it's just the power of the network.
That's great. That's great. Especially the it's like how we expand and grow our community. It's like different ways to do that. So yeah, if you're taking a step back and talking more about your work at in the valley, um, what's next for Jesse?
That's funny. Well, I'm really focused on my day job,
Yep.
right? And so, from there, thinking about how do we empower startups from a Salesforce perspective. And so we have a whole initiative around that. So thinking about B2B, enterprise. And so who are those founders, right? Latinx and diverse that are in that space, and how do we help support them, right? And then how do we help grow them as well? And so thinking about those strategies. So, okay, great. You're on Salesforce. How do we help you grow? And so what are the additional technologies that we can take advantage of, right? Like marketing cloud, service cloud, um, and being able to help them, deliver on the work that they're doing and being able to leverage technology. So definitely looking at that. And then also, with Vamos and Republic, who's also that next generation of youth that are going to come through, right? So thinking about, fellows and associates and so forth, so that, we continue to educate others. So
Yeah.
now that, we're leveling the playing field, right? It's not as siloed, right? It's not the ivory tower anymore per se.
Yeah.
So, right, how do we include more of us uh, in the work that we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, in looking also at everything that's happened with like especially with COVID, um, and you talk about partnerships with Salesforce. How can what can companies do now? I feel like there's at least in the startup community, many startups, like you said, very quickly they experienced a dip in funding. They were cash strapped, so kind of like they're struggling or have folded. It's just a very competitive environment for funds right now.
Yeah.
Um, how can what role can larger tech companies play like Salesforce, and how can startups really engage with those companies?
Yeah, well, I think you're starting to see more and more programs, catering to startups, right? Whether if it's Salesforce or Zendesk or others. And so taking advantage of those SAP as well, SAPIO, being able to run accelerators and leverage their network. So I think just depending on your customer base, right, where your customers reside, and finding those companies that align to it for the most part, right? So how you leverage their ecosystem in order for you to plug in, and then therefore see if there's a way that you can, gain that access, gain that trust to their customers.
Got it. Yeah, it's a there's a lot of potential, especially in work. It's a lot of potential in working with companies. It's just usually so resource intensive and difficult to get the companies to pay attention. But it's nice to see for those that want to that want to engage specifically with Salesforce. Can you share some of the programs and resources that they can like early founders can engage to work with Salesforce?
Yeah, so there's a few different programs. There's what's called Salesforce Accelerate. So it's their incubator program. So if you just Google that, it should come up for you. And I know they're working on different programs based on the stage that you're in. And so the other one would be the App Exchange. So if you're looking to expand your app and grow it through a different, business market vertical, take a look at the App Exchange as a way to build something. It's a marketplace just like Apple's or the Android one, except it's enterprise, and so that's a pretty cool destination. And then also SMBs. So there's Salesforce for SMBs, and so being able to, again, depend on your business model, who are you serving? And then there's also Salesforce.org, which is serving nonprofits. So what are some of the solutions that cater to the nonprofit world as well? And then there's a new one called Salesforce Labs, which is their innovation group, and that's all about coming up with new solutions catering to social impact.
Great. So no, thank you for sharing that. And they and they can and so for those of you that are on the line looking, check out. You can connect with Jesse on the link to the live stream, and I'm sure he would love to connect and also share more about those resources.
Yep,
Um,
they provide and share
awesome.
more info. Yeah.
Awesome. No, thanks again. So I know we're about at the half hour, so I wanted to thank you, Jesse, for sharing a little bit more of your background as an ecosystem builder, venture partner, and a founder. So thank you for sharing your story and joining us on
Yeah,
Rebel One
thank
Live.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And for those watching, if you want to connect with Jesse, his LinkedIn link is in the bio. And so thanks again, and join us and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, to hear from more great founders and investors like Jesse. So thanks
All right.
again.
Thanks, Sergio. Thanks, Rebel One. And by the way, nice haircut.
Thanks.